Well, here's the TLDR. So, if you're familiar with me as a fighting game player, you probably associate me most with Spencer in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, or Hime in Melty Blood AACC, the two characters I had the most personal contributions towards high-level play for. But, while I do like both of them very much, I wouldn't call either of them my favorite character in a fighting game. That honor goes to this lady, for reasons that I think are pretty interesting. Dlanor is Umineko Golden Fantasia's dedicated grappler. She moves slow, her normals are big, and she's focused around her command grab. But unlike most grapplers, her command grab isn't particularly strong. Let's look at that damage again. This is a game with 3 life bars. That's not very much. I mean, just look at this. So, in a game like this, why do we care about Dlanor's grab? Well, that's because of this. And also, it's because of this. And maybe most importantly, it's because of this. You see, Dlanor's grab is both a Frame 1 traditional command grab and a Frame 5 hit grab. This allows you to combo into it, and it's unaffected by hit count-based damage scaling, so just having Dlanor in your team gives any character a way to switch out when they need to recover resources that deals high damage and gives you a setup anywhere on the screen. But then, many anime fighter grapplers nowadays can combo into their command grabs. Other than being in a tag game, how is this fundamentally different? Well, the fact that it's a true hit grab means it never whiffs through the opponent. If, say, you failed a tick grab, maybe due to your nerves, or maybe because the opponent got hit by your jab instead of blocking it and had an unexpected amount of grab invuln, then they may get hit by the hit grab anyway, or in the worst case, block it. This is only -2 on block, so no one's punishing that, and the space it gives you is perfect for Dlanor to work the size of her normals. Now, if it was just that would be neat, but I'd hardly call her my favorite character. However, this idea of having one tool that functions as several more traditional tools in one is kinda all over her kit. See, in the Umineko novels, and I'll try to keep this as spoiler light as possible, Dlanor is introduced halfway through after the characters and the reader believe themselves to be familiar with how the story functions, and she exists to be a wrench in the works. She's basically the incarnation of the rules of writing good mystery fiction. If anyone tries to take any action that violates the rules of the Nox Decalogue, Dlanor strikes it from possibility. It would make the story worse if that sequence of events happened, and therefore, it didn't. Ipso facto, the possibility is dead. Hence, in the fighting game, Dlanor's kit is entirely centered around composite actions which serve to block off classes of tactics, binding the enemy's actions and twisting risk-reward in her team's favor. Did you want to just stay in the air and avoid ever interacting? That story is boring. Did you want to push the grappler to full screen and zone them out forever with projectiles? That story is boring. Did you want to patiently block and keep an eye on the enemy options and wait for them to run out of momentum? Isn't that so boring? Now wait, I can hear you saying already, That was like 20 supers. There's no way that's match practical. But actually, that little charge is Dlanor's meta super. You may have noticed the cut-in that changes the nature of the background after it. That's a mechanic called Meta World Declaration. A core feature of the Umineko novels is that while the events are happening, they're being commented on by meta characters in the meta world, and those characters argue and debate about the nature of what's happening. Anything that the other meta character either cannot or chooses not to debate becomes considered to be true in the base world of the story. And in the fighting game, if you can spend meter to make a meta declaration, and then the opponent either cannot or chooses not to spend extra meter to make a counter-argument, then you'll temporarily gain control of deciding the world's truth, activating both of your character's traits at once and allowing you to use your character's meta super for free as many times as you can get away with in the duration. And Dlanor's meta super, true to everything about Dlanor, has many functions, dealing high damage and high stun on hits, giving enough advantage on block to be loopable, and even allowing extra follow-up opportunities from certain moves where it whiffs. Now, at this point, I feel I have to mention, there's a universal guard cancel and a burst in this game, and you would think that would make the meta super block string to corner not be real. However, said universal guard cancel doesn't work against supers, so it actually just works anyway. Now, they can likely avoid a guard crush, but you do get pressure and mix-up, and the combos off of specifically Dlanor's highs and lows in the corner will be unburstable, since Dlanor's high and low options all launch, and this game's burst can only be done versus standing combos. And on the subject of multifunction moves, let's go back to that giant air unblockable move we've seen a few times now. This is her 6B. It sends people sky high if they're in the air, but it's just like a normal? It chains to 2B and to C normals, and it works fine against crouching people, so it has great utility as an anti-jump guest poke. Even if you don't confirm the enemy state and just dial into a whiff 2B, you can still generally get a follow-up, even if it's not as strong as the one you'd get from a raw 6B that you knew would hit. Anyway, let's circle back around to those abilities. Every character has one, but they're not always active. Instead, each character's ability activates for a set time for their partner when normal tagging their partner in. This is a big part of team synergy. The only time a character will have their own ability active is when they perform a meta declare and have both, so the most important thing is to make sure that your abilities are complementary. And outstanding abilities, like Beatrice's here, allows the user to perform one super for free, go a long way towards making their users strong. Hey, so what's Dlanor's ability? Here we go. Reduces damage taken by 50% for 15 seconds. If you find yourself unable to make headway with Dlanor, when you go to switch in your partner, they take half damage for 15 seconds. There isn't a lot else that is this good at swinging risk-reward in your favor. When you're taking half damage, you can afford to make a lot of mistakes while forcing your way back in. Obviously, the more mobile characters can make use of this the best, but this is kind of incredible for everyone. Oh hey, there's Willard. SP Cancel. Allows the user to cancel a special move or super into a move of higher priority, special into super into meta super once. Allows normally impossible combos by forcing the opponent into a juggleable state. Hey, so this is kind of a completely buck-wild game. Like, this is probably the most high-concept fighting game I've ever played. See, I talked about the command grab already, but now that we have touched on lore, I think it's worth mentioning that its name is the Nox Decalogue. For the normal version, she names one of the rules. For the EX version, she reads off the text of that rule. And why wouldn't that be a grab? It's the rules of the story. You can't block the rules of the story. That doesn't even make sense. Absolutely beautiful flavor. There's one more thing about the EX version though. In addition to dealing more damage, it moves the hit grab part of the move to frame 1, the same as the regular grab. Now, in this game, grabs are calculated before hits on each frame, which is why even the regular version can be used as a reversal. But the EX version being that frame 2 does one very funny thing. Well, in addition to just making it much easier to scoop them. You see, the regular grab will hit people out of the air, but they can still block it in the air. That's what this is for. I mean, among other things. But there is one time the opponent can't block. And that's during jump startup. And since you recover from a successful meta declare a couple frames before the opponent, if you slide into range with a dashing meta declare, you can take a quick look-see at the opponent's state and choose exactly how you want to scoop them up. For as much as we've spoken about dlanor's command grab though, her normal grab does have one very important bit of utility. See, the command grab will always put the opponent in front of you. And if you're cornered, you may want to put the opponent behind you. What do you do in that case? You fucking step on them! This is really just the most perfect character that's ever been put into a game. The last thing I want to talk about is this move. The EX version of the charge. However invulnerable you think this move is, it's actually much more invulnerable than that. See, this move has iframes for the entire duration of its active frames. And its recovery, well... I mean, it has recovery frames, but... not a lot of them. That's right, I whiffed through it with the first move, and the second move got blocked. So in addition to just being extremely large and going through basically anything, it also has the trait of being quite plus on block from a lot of ranges. But that's enough about specific moves. Again, I really could just go on forever. With how wild all this is, it may surprise you to learn that in terms of character viability, Dlanor is... I mean, she's like fine? She's by no means one of the weaker characters, but she kind of lacks the versatility that some characters have, and while a lot of her options are strong, she doesn't really have anything that just seems straightforwardly busted. All of her funny good options are more like comedy bits that you play in your opponent's sense of disbelief. Not haha I win now kind of stuff. However, Golden Fantasia is a game of synergy, and there are definitely a few good characters that can make use of Dlanor as a teammate. And chief among them is the character you get immediately after picking Dlanor. Berncastle. Berncastle Dlanor is the team that I play, and I've won a lot of offline events with them. I also won EVO 2020 with them, the very last big tournament I ever entered for any game. The last big tournament before the issues with my circulatory system got too out of hands and forced me to stop playing fighting games competitively. Now, Berncastle is obviously the character that benefits the most from Dlanor's armor boost ability, since she's both the most mobile character in the game and is tied for least health of all characters. But the real star of the show is how this team exploits meta. See, normally once you're out of meta, it takes a while before you can redeclare. But Berncastle's ability, Meta Boost, makes your meta world last longer and increases the rate at which the meta meter builds when out of meta. And when you're in meta, when you gain access to both characters' abilities, they collectively only last as long as the shorter of their timers. Berncastle and Dlanor are among the very few characters that have 15-second abilities, which is so long that even from full, you'll have them active after meta ends and still have enough time left on Meta Boost to get you back to being able to use meta again right quick. If you can play the meter game well, you can theoretically control meta and have armor boost up for most of the game, meaning that you can really fuck around and absolutely never have to find out. And while I already told you how good Dlanor's meta super is in literally every theoretical situation, Berncastle's is right up there in terms of just throw out the meta super, who cares? It's also the only meta super you can use in the air. If you were to ask me who I think the next best Dlanor team is, I'd have to say Willard. Now, Willard doesn't really benefit as much from armor boost as Berncastle does, but then nobody isn't going to benefit from getting to be completely fearless and neutral, especially when you have pokes as big as this guy's. Dlanor does have a very notable thing to gain from Willard's SP cancel though. See, one thing I didn't talk about is that in this game, you can't block during your run or during your run stop animation, so running forward is kind of a committal action. Dlanor's run is kinda slow, but she gets to skirt around this a bit, because her 623X charge attacks have auto guard during their startup. But while this gets you in, it doesn't really get you a combo or a setup. Except, you can SP cancel the grappler to link an A normal. In this way, when people try to punish you for Dlanor's low mobility, you can just fuck them up. Also, against cornered opponents, you can use the illegal juggle property of SP cancel to get a meta super after an air combo. Which, I mean, lots of abilities can help you get more damage or stun, but this one's cool. The last Dlanor team I want to mention is Dlanor Battler. Now, unlike the previous two teams, Dlanor's and Battler's playstyles don't quite synergize perfectly. But this is a very low-effort team in a very funny way, since Dlanor's ability halves the damage you take, and Battler's ability makes you constantly regenerate HP. And both of those together is, well, this is a team that lets you really just force your way through a game without ever needing to debase yourself by thinking a single thought. Now, there are definitely a few other Dlanor teams that are functional in competitive play, but these are the ones that I would say are probably strongest for the niche that they offer Dlanor. If you're a fan of a particular other character, you may have a reason to pick Dlanor with them. But from Dlanor's perspective, they may fit what she's looking for in a partner a little less. Again, if people want to see it, I absolutely could do a deep dive into all the fun little things about every one of Dlanor's moves. Golden Fantasia is really a crazy intricate game, and if it piqued your interest, there's still active people on the Discord. But that's about all I have for now. If you've watched this far, maybe give a like and a sub. I'm trying to actually post on my YouTube channel on a consistent basis now, and have more or less succeeded for an entire month now, so maybe doing this whole call to action thing is worth. If you're not feeling it though, that's fine too. Either way, until the next video.